Hi everyone and welcome to DIY Ideas. Today I want to show you two different styles of putting bows on your hairbands so that they look really nice and you're going to be able to do this all on your own. Here is everything that we're going to need for today. So as always, some fabric scissors here, then something to measure with measuring tape, pins. I have here hand gauge as well and fabric chalk so that I can mark everything. Then I have here some elastic bands, so the thickness is completely up to you. You can use thick or thin. And then, of course, thread in the matching color to the fabric and, of course, the fabric itself. So as far as the fabric goes, you can use pretty much anything that you have and like. So I wanted to show you a couple of different ones that I have on here. So I have here some lovely silk, then some cotton, then some two different ones, and at the end something a little bit sturdier. So this is, of course, as I said, completely up to you. You can use anything and everything. So the sturdier the fabric is, the better it's gonna work, but you can try it out with something thinner if you'd like as well. So I'm going to show you how you can work with silk because I really like the fabric and I'd like to have a hairband in this color in the end. So we're going to cut out a rectangle shape here. That's what we're going to need. So I'm going to do 10 times 40 centimeters with a couple centimeters extra for the stitches. Of course, you can do it smaller or larger. This is completely up to you. So I'm going to measure, as I said, 10 centimeters. About 12 actually for the stitches on both sides. I'm going to leave 1 centimeter per stitch, and then I'm going to do 40 centimeters in length. Then I'm going to cut the fabric out. So in order to do the band, there are two possibilities. So you can do one piece or you can do two rectangle pieces that you basically put together later. So the first possibility is what I'm going to show you now, and with the other project, we're going to try out the second option. So I have here one piece that I want to use. Then we're going to fold it in half like this. And we're basically going to do a stitch right there to make a little loop. So as you can see, this is the shape and size. So I have 10 times 26 centimeters. I made it a little bit smaller, so the more fabric you do, the more ruffled style it's gonna have in the end. So yeah, when we do this and when we're satisfied with the size and length, then we can go on and fold it in half like this, and then we can do the edges here. So basically we're gonna cut out these corners since we don't need them. Of course, I'm gonna mark them with my fabric chalk, and then later you're gonna see why we did this step. You can also iron it over here so that the fold stays in place and doesn't move as you work on it. So I'm gonna do now the pins and then I'll be back. So I ironed over the fold now, and you can see a couple of pins in here just to keep everything in place. Now what we're going to do is mark our marks, and then we're going to cut the leftover fabric off. So I want here a diagonal line basically, so I'm doing 4 centimeters away from the edge, and I'm going to do that mark all the way to the corner, and I'm going to do a line there. That's what I'm going to cut off later. And you basically see that we're cutting off a triangle shape. So as soon as I mark this, you're going to be able to see it, and it's going to be a super easy thing. So what you want to do is basically take your scissors and go along this line, so cut off the triangle. You don't need that. And yeah, I'm going to do that on the other side as well, and then I'll be back. So now that we did this prep step, we can do the other size as well. So I have here a larger piece. So as I said, the 40 centimeters is what we need for the other piece. So that's for my band. And I'm basically gonna fold this the same way as I did the first piece, and I'm gonna iron over it to make sure it stays that way and pin it as well. And now what we're gonna do when we pin it up is basically do the same thing on both pieces, which is a regular straight stitch across the open edge on here. So we're gonna do 2 stitches, one on the longer piece, one on the shorter piece, and then we basically get like 2 little tunnels or 2 little loop-shaped pieces. So yeah, you can do about 1, 2, or 3 centimeters of an opening so that you can turn it inside out later, but I'm gonna show you when I'm done what that's gonna look like. Optionally, you can do an extra zigzag stitch or a seam stitch. So in order to do the loop, now what we're gonna do is leave one opening up, so on the one side or even on the top itself, so you can do it on either side or the longest stitch on here that we're gonna close up later. So how I decided to do this is basically turn it inside out, or actually turn it the right way around and then do both ends and close them up. So what you would do is just fold these ends inwards and then do a tiny stitch on that section right there, so somewhere around here, and same on the other side, and that way you're not going to be able to see them later, but it's going to look nice and neat. Otherwise, you can do an opening here on this side and then stitch it up later. So as you saw on the video, what I did is basically pushed it inwards a little bit and did a tiny stitch on there so that I can have a nice stitch and it looks neat and nothing sticks out that shouldn't be. So yeah, you can see here a pin that I did. If you don't have luck with pulling out the corner over here, what you can do is basically take a pin or a needle and just push it out a little bit. That way yeah, you basically solve that problem in case you run into it. And yeah, you can do an extra stitch on there as well. Now we can turn this inside out and then finally stitch it. So now that we turned it the right way around, you see what it looks like, and we want to align the edges now so that we can connect them. So I'm basically going to start on the one end and I'm just going to keep rotating it until I do the entire stitch. So just start with one pin first, and then you can just follow with the stitch, and at some point you're going to close it up completely. This is what the fabric will look like now that we're done. So it looks a little bit weird, but I'm gonna show you. So when you pull it out, this is everything that you're gonna be able to see. So it's just a neat stitch, and you have still a little opening over here, and we can yeah, basically work with that so that it's not visible later. So you can stitch it up by hand or do an extra stitch with your sewing machine. So before I do that, I need an extra step. So I'm gonna put in the elastic band of my choice. So here you can see about 16 centimeters of length. This is of course, this depends on how tight it is or how strong it is, but you can do more or less depending on what you like and need. So yeah, what we're gonna do is go in, push it through the entire thing, and then stitch it up with our sewing machine a couple of times so that it doesn't rip and stays that way on the inside. So just make sure you do it a couple of times, and then we can close up this hole and be done with it. So now that this section is done and this step is done, you can see what we have. So we have a really beautiful scrunchie, and what I'm going to show you is how you can do an extra bow on top of it. So if you'd like, you can keep it as it is, but as I said, I'm going to do a bow on top. So basically all that we're going to do is tie a knot on top, and due to the shape of this, it basically already looks like a bow. So this is like the simplest way that you can do it. Now I'm going to show you a different style. So here is a second version of hair tie bow or scrunchie bow. So you see here we have the two pieces that we're working with. I basically put them pretty side on pretty side, as you can see, and we're going to connect them as well, or stitch them up. And then I'm going to show you a different shape of bow. So it's going to look a little bit differently, but it's going to be still very simple. So here I did a length of about 22 centimeters. My hand gauge is not long enough, but I did about 22 centimeters plus some extra room for the stitches. The middle here, of course, is marked. And as far as the width goes, you can choose anything you'd like. I have here about 7.5 centimeters, and it's going to look a little bit different in the end. So I decided to use a little bit sturdier cotton fabric, so a little bit thicker type. So what we're going to do this time is just put it on an existing hair tie. So this time I'm not going to make a scrunchie, although you could do that, but I'm just going to keep it really simple. So here I'm going to make basically a drop shape or a tear shape. So I'm also going to make sure that it's symmetrical on both sides so that it looks nice and neat. And for that, we're basically going to fold along this midline that we marked. And now we're going to draw on there, and then so mark with our fabric chalk. Then we're going to cut it out, and that way we're going to have symmetrical halves. So you can of course take your fabric chalk and mark, or you can make your own pattern with some wax paper or something like that. So this is completely up to you. So let's fold it in half, and I think the easiest way is to draw directly on here. So here is the line that we're not going to cross. We need that room for stitches. So starting from there, I'm just going to do kind of a leaf shape here. So also make sure that you don't go all the way to the edge, but as close to the edge as you can. And here we want it a little bit narrower so that it looks like a bow in the end. And then when we cut this out, we're gonna have two parallel, exactly same looking pieces. So that's also what we want. And you can also pin it to keep everything in place and make sure the shape is same on both sides. So I did the shape. As you can see, I have two identical pieces. And now I would like to make this section a little bit longer. So I'm gonna put it like this, one on top of another. And then what I'm gonna do is fold it in half again, pretty side on pretty side. Make sure that it's aligned. And then I can make this section longer. Of course, when we stitch these up, they're going to go pretty side on pretty side, and we're going to turn them inside out so that they're actually the right way around. So let me do that step really quick, and then I'll be right back to show you how to move on. So when you're satisfied with the shape and size, so you see here I made this little section a bit longer, then we're going to put both fabric pieces pretty side on pretty side, pinned so that everything stays in place, and then we can get started with a stitch all around the open edges. Here I recommend that you go as close to the edge as possible without damaging the stitch. And yeah, of course there's an extra step apart from that, and that's to remember to leave a little opening, a little hole somewhere so that we can turn it inside out. So I think I'm gonna do the hole here in the middle. Of course you can do it on the side, but I think it's gonna be hidden way better if we do it here when we fold it and twist it later. So yeah, we can of course close it up with our sewing machine or by hand. So now that we turned it inside out, this is what we have, and you see the opening here. So what we want to do is close this up. So also just a tip, make sure that this middle section is wide enough so that when you're done, the fabric on the sides can come out of it. So that's something that we need to think about. It can't be too thin. So in my case, it was probably as thin as it goes. If it were any thinner, I couldn't have pushed all the fabric through. So yeah, here you can push the corners out with a needle or a pen from the inside, and yeah, when you're satisfied with the way it looks, then you can basically fold this kind of a little bit inward so to hide the fraying section and so that it doesn't keep fraying, and then you can do an extra stitch here with your sewing machine or even by hand to close it up, and then we're pretty much done. So that's everything that we basically need. Now what we're gonna do is check the edges if they're nice and neat, and when we're satisfied, you can take pretty much any hairband that you already have at home, and what we're gonna do is tie a knot around that as well, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, so just make sure to adjust it the way that you like it and want to have it in the end. It shouldn't be too difficult. And yeah, there we go. So I think I like the way it looks. As I said, you just do a basic knot and that's pretty much it. So you see here, it's a completely different style of bow. Okay, so here are the two projects we did today. So here we have the one style of bow and here the other one. And I have to say I love both of them and it was super fun to do this. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Feel free to shoot a thumbs up if you did. Let me know which one you like better, if you like the scrunchy one or here the one on the left side. And yeah, if you'd like, you can shoot us a thumbs up, you can subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell. See you in our next video. Have a great day. Bye!